It's Amy with Just a Little Ink. I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up, and I've got a fun project I want to share today. I'm excited to be back on with some weekly lives and videos, and so if you're catching this live, I hope that you will pop on and tell me where you're from. I am from the Prescott Valley, Arizona area, and have been here almost 4 years. Started out in Colorado and was introduced to stamping actually in Central California. So I've had a number of places that I've been introduced to Stampin' Up. But I'm excited to share with you a project. I'm going to go ahead and just flip that camera over because it's just easier to get right at it and have you quit looking at me. So let's get going here. I've got, as I said, a project. I'm hoping my camera does not seem to want to go on here. Let's see if there we go, get some light on the subject. The idea comes from a project that I made following on stage. I was, if you watch any of my recent videos, I was not able to attend due to my father's untimely passing, but I was given, because I had a friend ship to me the products I would have received in the project packets and stuff. And so I've been making my make and takes, and this happens to come from an optional class. It's using a soon to be released in our new catalog, a suite of products and actually a bundle. This is our brand new catalog. I can only show you the cover right now. Beautiful projects, and I'm excited for our now 3 times a year annual catalog, basically, because we're going to get 3 of them a year. But the Fern and Flora, which I'm not sure I would have picked, but I will admit that I just enjoyed this. It's a little bit more tedious. Get it back up into the screen. It's a little more tedious in some ways, and this one specifically because of all the different layers that were involved in it. But I want to share with you an alteration of this, and so I'm going to actually be using both Stamp Set Greeting and a couple of the other images and the dies. So the Stamp Set, as you saw there, photopolymer, and then the die set is just beautiful. And I really liked the couple, the fern and this other more fern type greeting. So further ado, this is more of a monochromatic look. And so I'm going to set these aside because I've already die cut, but I kind of want to share with you what I'm using. So we'll do that first. Let me pull all this out of the way. So, and I have a fun tip. So I'm using a basic beige base. The basic beige is 5.5 by 8.5, and it's scored in the middle at 4 1/4. And then I've got a piece of basic beige two-tone. And if you've not been introduced to our two-tone cardstock, it's wonderful for layering. I know that its initial use was for scrapbooking, but it is just amazing. I'm hoping my camera focuses a little better here. So you can see here the two-toned nature of the two-tone cardstock. So I'm going to scoot this down just a little closer, hoping that helps a little. And then basic white. So I've got I told you about my base. This one is 4 by 5 1/4. That's for my layer. And I'm not going to do it in the darker of the shades. And then a piece of 4 by 5 1/4 for the interior. And I've got a couple pieces that I die cut using the little banner or the little layer piece. My goodness, my names are not together here. Almost like a banner. This is Secret C. It's almost a black, and yet it's not, and I love it with basic beige. And then I've cut another one from basic white. So we're going to see if we can't get it to focus a little better here. And then I already die cut from some of the two-tone, and this is the darker of the two shades, and so you'll kind of notice that it's not as light as this paste, so that it pops off a little more. And I did a number of those shapes. I've already applied some adhesive sheet to the back of that two-tone, and what I love about layering it with the two-tone is this isn't as heavy as a piece of actual cardstock, and so it just lays on the paper really well. But I kind of wanted to share with you how I did this. Let me get this out of the way. And I'm going to pull out. So this is my two-tone. It's 12 and whatever is left here. I believe this is 8 inches because I already have trimmed off some of it. And so our adhesive sheet comes 6 by 12. And so it works really well. So I've got it facing whatever side I want my sticky part on. And for me, I want that darker section showing. So then I'm going to find my relief piece. Should be on this side. Sometimes it's easier said. Oh, it's on the other side. Sometimes easier said than done. Okay, so I know that this piece is not what's sticky, it's down here. So I'm going to pull it back just a little bit, and I'm going to lay it down, lining up. I found that it's best to get it right up to where I want to be, and make sure that I'm straight at the top edge, and I'll be straight here along this edge. And then I'm going to pull down that piece. Right, and I got a little extra on there. And then, because this is going to get revealed, I'm going to pull this down just so that that part doesn't get unstuck. So this isn't quite 10 inches probably. Then I would trim this. This is in 2-inch increments. If you wanted more of it covered, you would then of course continue. And I'll just set this aside because again, I've already done that. Then I would lay my die on the front, run it through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and then I'm going to be having my piece ready for die cutting. So let's get all this stuff out of the way. So show you kind of what I want to work on. So to pop these up, this was something that we had done in this optional class. We're going to use one of our small blending brushes, and I want to pull out basic beige ink. So I'm just going to open up my basic beige, almost a tongue twister, and I'm going to ink a little from the center through, just kind of swirl it around, and then I'm going to tap off a little here just so I'm not real strong in the center. And then I want to put a little bit of ink down the middle of it just to set it off even more. This would be optional. Certainly you don't have to do this, but it kind of just helps. And so I'm going to do the same thing on all of my die cuts here. Just kind of give just a little bit of interest. Okay, and as I do them, I'm going to set them aside just so I know which ones I've done. And you can do as much as you want. How many of you have used the blending brushes? I'm finding I'm loving them more and more all the time, just for the soft look that it gives. Previously, because I've been a demonstrator 24 years, and initially we would have used sponges, and then eventually it was our oh goodness, I can't even think the names of them. They're what's in the, put your finger in it. Oh my goodness, that's bad that I'm not remembering. So the other thing I want to do is put just a little bit along the edges on the outside. Again, something else that this showed. And so you start it on the outside of the paper and swirl. So I'm just going to come, and because this is the same color, it's not like you're going to see a huge difference. But I want just a little bit of an edge. So as I come along, swirl across. You'll have to let me know if this is a technique that you end up using, and if it is, I'd love to see your creations. Certainly here on Facebook, I'm just a little ink, and if it's on YouTube, I'd love to hear a comment of what you've done. So just kind of gives a little bit of an interest. A lot of this kind of gets covered. So that's for this. I'm going to go ahead then and close my ink up, because until we get to our other, we don't need that. So then I also want to do some stamping. So I'm going to grab this small, a small fern and kind of get it on my die. Whoops, I'm not done yet. I thought I was done with this pad. Open it up again. I'm going to go here and kind of just give a little bit of interest with this die, with this stamp. It's not a die, it's a stamp. And you could stamp off if you wanted it even lighter. You could get more color, you know, just almost, can't almost even see it, but I kind of like that too. So I'm gonna come and then get a double stamping along the edges. Just kind of adds to the whole overall look. And I'm going to add just some stamped off images just to kind of fill in the centers. So, like so. You could do as much or as little as you really wanted, which is the nice thing. And then, I think I wiggled my camera a little here. So then I'm ready to start adhering all of my layers. And so you take your pick tool and that little poke, so it's your piercing tool, is perfect for lifting off that adhesive from the back side. And because the one I had done from the class I did with our multi-purpose liquid glue, which works, this is a whole lot less messy. And so I'm just wanting to kind of come in, and it's going to kind of hang around, and then I'm going to press, and I'll show you some hints on keeping that down as well. And I've done a few of these, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull them apart. You're catching an idea that was in my head and I've actually not implemented until right now. So we'll see what you think when I'm done. Okay. So then I'm going to come in some different angles because I want those to lay in a certain way, and then I'll fill in with smaller ferns. Take your pick tool is such a useful tool for so many different reasons. Okay, so then I'm going to come in. I think I want to kind of come from this opposite side, like so. Okay, and then we'll go through those smaller pieces, and then I'll show you. I'm going to trim off those ends. I thought I wouldn't like this, but I am really loving kind of the new look here. So I think this would make a great sympathy card too with the two-tone. So grab into here. Oops, and if you go like that and it didn't get all the way off, that's where that take your pick piercing tool comes in so handy, because it can grab the sections that you, it's just a fine backer paper. There we go. Let's see, there, yeah. All right. And you'll kind of notice on mine, there's places it wants to lift, and that's okay. Let me grab from this one. There we go. And I'm thinking on this one, I kind of want to come, if I want him there, you know what, let's stick it over here. I like that. All right, so I found that using, I'm going to put my take your pick tool away. I found that if you use this flat side of your bone folder, it kind of helps to burnish that onto, I thought I had stamp, it's sticky there. It helps to kind of get that where it'll adhere the adhesive to your cardstock. And so you want to make sure you get it secured before we do all the other trimming. Okay, so, like so. We will need that in a minute. And then you're just going to grab your scissors. And you're going to trim off your edges. You could use your trimmer, but I'm just finding the scissors are almost the better way to go here. And I'll throw those extra pieces away. If you want to find a use for them, you certainly could. But I want to get rid of any of those sticky pieces. So I'm just going to come along, cut the edges off so that it's nice and straight for my layer. And I got one more, well, two more. Over here, on this side. Basically all four sides you want to trim up. This piece just doesn't want to stick. Okay, you could add adhesive if you really wanted to. You can decide then, you know, if that's enough, if you need more. But I'm going to go ahead and fold my card base in half. I like having a thicker card base, and so I like using our full weighted, full color cardstock. And mixing the two, but I really do love the two-tone for layering. So I'm going to pull that and put some adhesive on it. I really like our multi-purpose liquid glue for a layer. So I'm just going to run a bead about 1/4 inch over. It can be anywhere between 1/8 and 1/4 inch. And that will spread and adhere to my front, to my card. So lay it here, kind of lined up, and you have a little bit of wiggle, not a ton of time, but you do get a little wiggle room when you use the multi-purpose liquid glue. What's your favorite adhesive of choice? I'd love to hear that. And then I'm going to put on the inside. Oh, let's think of something. You know what? Let's put a moth in there. Something a little lighter will do. One of my blocks. And we're going to grab out basic beige again. And I think we'll just do, we'll come and light up. A little bit at a time, huh? That's interesting. And then that gives me a place. Let's go ahead and get my secret C out. So I'm going to share with you my tip. We're going to put my greeting on top of that and it'll be fine. So I'm going to go ahead and again put my adhesive to put this in the inside. Sometimes you try things and they work great, and sometimes you're thinking, oh man, that didn't work so wonderful. So it'll be fine with the greeting on top of it though. So get all that squared up. Okay, so I've got the inside. I don't know how well you see it here. See all that texture that gives? It's just really pretty. So I want to put a couple things on my the front of my little banner here. So I'm going to pull out Basic Beige and get my stamp lined up. I have a friend, Kathy Howes, who'd shared a tip on die cutting making basically a template, and I loved her idea. And I thought, why couldn't you use that to get a better lining up of the die cut piece you already have done for stamping on it? And it worked so well that I want to share that with you. So I'm going to grab a little bit of my Post-it tape just so I can kind of keep this from moving. Okay. I've got my die cut piece in the middle. And I'm going to use this, oh, that stays on my stamp block. So you see here what I'm going to try to do. I've got this outline. And what I loved about this was that it gave me a real distinct knowledge of where my die cut shape went with having light and dark separating the two. So got my die cut shape, and then I want to grab my greeting because I was thinking, let's see, which one do we want to put on here? Let's go with, and we're going to put Basic Beige away, and I'm going to pull out that Secret C, and I'm going to use the stamp that says "You're an amazing friend." We're going to ink it up. Always easier when you're not on camera. So let's get about the right distance and hope we're straight. Not too bad. And I will clean my stamps after the video. It's important to clean your stamps. So then I can reuse this. So I'll set it aside. But then I can layer it onto my, so I'm just going to put a little adhesive on the back. I want to layer it on this Secret C banner. So turn it in the right direction and just offset it. This is how we had done it in the original card, and I kind of liked how it gave a little bit of color. So I want it to be set in the way I want. And then I'm going to put a couple dimensionals on the back, so just a couple of our full-size Stampin'. Whoops, well, helps if they have adhesive on them. Okay, and we'll put one more here just to keep it all. So grab those backers off. I'm going to place it on the front, and I think that would be pretty, and that would be fine all on its own. But I think I want to use some of the gems that were in this, or are in this suite of products. They're called Dewdrop embellishments, and they come in a lot of different colors. I believe this is Old Olive. It might be Mossy Meadow, Secret C, and then Clear. And so I want to, I think that was Secret C. It doesn't tell me on there. I'm going to grab my Take Your Pick tool. You know how much I like the sticky end with a little adhesive. And I'm going to use the clear drops just because I don't want it to stand out from the monochromatic look that I've got going on. And I'm only going to put 3 of them on here. So I'm going to come and I'm just going to stick one at the top. You could certainly add more. I know in our class they had us do, I don't know, it might be 7 or 9 of them. So really simple idea. Hopefully you like that. I'm going to go ahead and flip my camera back over and say thank you for joining me. If you catch this on my YouTube channel, I'd love it if you would subscribe. Please like, share, and comment. I love hearing what you think, and I'm always tweaking, always learning. And so until the next time, happy stamping.